Hi everybody, welcome to, well, yes, another video. So today we're having a look at the Meiji Finer Core in 1.3 and we're pitting up against the SATA 1500 or 1500 RP, again in a 1.3. Now one of the reasons for pitting these two together is that this is it's a mid-price SATA. Which means it's still relatively expensive, but it's not as expensive as the X5500s or the 5000 SATA guns. But it is a good. It's actually middle size as well. It's mid size between the 4400 and the bigger guns I just mentioned. So in my eyes, these two are sort of competing for the same sort of ground as each other. Price wise, they're very similar as well. Obviously it depends where you buy them from, but they are quite similar. So with the Meiji, we'll start off with the Meiji. You get probably, there's not much probably about it. You get what I would consider, certainly of all the guns that I've seen and used and played with, you get the best made gun there is, in my opinion, without a shadow of a doubt. The build quality, I know SATA is, touted as being really good build quality. In my book, they're good build quality, but they're not, the engineering excellence is not as good as you get with Meiji. The build quality is just exceptional, it really is. Having said that, I've recently got a Meiji Finer Force C, which is a side cup gun, and it's their sort of like midi range. It's not really a mini, it's more of a midi gun. And I had problems with that. Literally the first time I used it, I started getting problems with it, with air leak, and it's all fixed now. I'll probably do a video. I sorted it all. It was quite easy to do. I got given the parts for nothing because it was a warranty thing, and I'll probably do a separate video, but nothing's infallible is what I've learned from that, because I've had a similar thing happen with Iwata's. I don't think I've had any problems with the Vilbis, but I've had a lot of Iwata's, and about 3 of them have had a similar problem in not too much use really, when they haven't been given loads of use, and I've had similar problems with those. It's just leaking air basically. But the Meiji really surprised me because, as I say, they are superbly made, and I couldn't believe it really that I'd got a problem with it. But I'll go through that in a separate video, but don't let it put you off buying them, because there was a silver lining to that, which I will explain when I do the video. But the parts availability is really good, and you don't have to buy whole sub-assemblies, which if there's a similar problem with the Iwata's, you do. So that was a silver lining, but I'll go through it in a separate video because it's probably worthy of that. Also, I must say, you'll see me warming up clear coat in a microwave in this video, which you just saw me put it in the microwave, and you'll see me take it out soon. It is the way I do it. Here we are taking it out now. It is the way I do it. It works very, very well for me, but I'm sure it's not recommended, so I will just do a quick disclaimer, and I apologise to everybody who's watching that normally watch my videos, because they've heard me say it over and over again, but I will say it again just in case anybody new is watching. You really shouldn't do this, but it is what I do. I find about 10 seconds per 100 millilitres works a treat. It obviously depends on the ambient temperature, but it just helps the clear coat flow out. And I'll put a link in the description to show you what a cold clear coat and a warm clear coat, nothing else different, going through a Ford 4 cup, and you see the difference it makes actually heating the clear coat up, and it just helps everything flow out better, and it just gives you a much smoother finish because the clear coat just flows out better on the panel after it's been applied. So that's the reason I do it. But as I say, just keeping everything above board, I'm sure you shouldn't do it. But back to the Meiji anyway. These are quite a small form factor gun. I lent this out to a couple of people I know, just to try and to use. And both of them said exactly the same thing, that they were surprised how small it was, physically small it was, which is a good attribute a lot of the time, because especially if you're trying to get into door shuts and things like that, where it's it's a little bit, I mean, I don't normally do that, but I'm just trying to look at it from people that normally spray cars. I mainly do bike stuff, and I find it really good to be able to maneuver the gun a lot, because there's a lot of like underneath parts and things like that you've got to get to, and you just maneuver the gun around a lot. So having a lighter gun and a physically smaller gun actually works really well. So yeah, I like smaller form factor guns, but it's got the punch, as you will see, of a full size gun. So it is a full size gun, but in a smaller package. And both the people I lent it to were really surprised how well it performed. Not in how well it actually did as far as the quality of the work it could do, but how well it performed for the physical size of it. Because it performs like a GTI Pro Light or something like that. Like any full-size gun, this performs exactly the same, but in a much smaller package. So yeah, it's quite surprising. It's got a real little punch for a little gun, but you can see it wets up really nicely because it's putting out a reasonable amount of material. The atomization is really, really fine. I keep mentioning the build quality. I will mention it again, but the build quality on this is absolutely superb. It's probably only, he says, thinking back to what he said earlier, it's probably only, in my opinion, surpassed by the Finer Force. The Finer Force just seems to be so well made, but this is certainly second place to it and any others, really. I always equate this to being like a Swiss watch. A Sata is, now I'm hopefully not going to offend Sata fans, but it's a little bit agricultural, and it's obviously built to last. Everything is built to last. I mean, some of the controls are plastic in Sata. A lot of people don't realise that, but they are. But I don't think that's a bad thing personally, because they seem to be quite durable. And if you do drop the gun, the plastic breaks rather than breaking the casing. So I think that's a good, like, fail safe, even though those bits of plastic will probably cost you a lot of money. But yeah, the Sata is made. It's just more. It's just less of a fine finish, but it will give you years of use, no doubt. But so will the Meiji. Certainly, if I had to choose between these two, I would have no doubt whatsoever in choosing the Meiji. And that brings me on to another thing with the Meiji. The Meiji, when I bought this from Painting Tools Japan, which is where I got a lot of my stuff from. So, I use them quite a lot for a lot of my stuff. But there is now an official importer into the UK for Meiji, which there wasn't when I got this. There wasn't. So I'll put a link in the description to, it's Beyond Surface Solutions is the parent company. The website is meiji.co.uk. Again, I'll put a link in the description. They've got an Instagram page as well. I'll put a link in the description to that. I think they've got a YouTube channel. There's not much on it at the moment, but I'll put a link in the description to that as well. But certainly if you're in the UK, it's certainly worth getting hold of them and seeing what they can do for you. But they'll also be able to, because they're a distributor, they'll be able to supply local suppliers. So if you've got somebody that normally supplies your paint or clear or whatever, they should be able to get stuff from Beyond Surface Solutions. That's as far as I know how it works anyway. I'm not a spokesman for the company, but I was just really pleased to see that somebody had bought the guns to the UK officially. I have spoke to them, and as far as I know, they do keep spare parts for these. Something they wanted to do was to keep spare parts so that they could effectively keep running what they sell, service what they sell. They don't keep the full range of Meiji, but they keep a reasonable range. They sent me a catalogue and that to have a look at. So yeah, I was just really pleased that somebody's actually bought these guns over, because in my opinion they're the best made of any gun certainly I've used. And I've used, well, people that watch the channel will know that I've used quite a few different guns. So going over now to the Sata, we're just starting with the Sata. And the SATA, I bought both of these used, but not hardly used, if that makes sense. So I didn't pay full price for them. But I mean, I really like them. I like the size of them. Again, as I said before, they're a smaller physical form factor. They seem to perform very, very well. They've got the typical SATA cap, which is a big, heavy brass cap. On the Meiji, it's a very finely machined aluminium cap, which will be not galvanised. What do they call it? Anodised aluminium. So you know the quality is good, and obviously it helps with the lightness. But I do quite like a brass cap, and that's something that the sorry to mention yet another name. The Porpish guns are coming through with some really good quality caps. But yeah, both of these are equally good quality when it comes to the cap. It's just that the SATA is noticeable by its heavy brass cap, but very, very well made. Good gun. I haven't used these a lot, to be honest. When I think of, you know, what gun I'm going to use, and again, people who watch the channel will know that I'm a little bit spoilt for choice. I don't often think of these, and I'm not quite sure why, because whenever I do get these out, I mean, this video was done about well, let's have a look, 9 months ago, so temperature was about 13 degrees Celsius, so it wasn't cold, but it wasn't particularly warm either. And I got it out and I used it, and I thought, no, this is actually quite good. I've got a HVLP version as well. I bought the two of them, as I say, used as a set. I think I prefer the RP, and that's simply because it's a bit faster. It's typical, really. With SATA, normally the HVLP is recommended for base coat, and it actually works very well with base coat. And the RP is recommended for clear coat. It's just a regular pressure it stands for, as far as I know. It's the equivalent to like the DeVilbiss Transtech, that sort of cap. What else have you got? You've got the MP, the HTE on the Walcoms, all that sort of cap. So they're still compliant. So they still put more than 60. Well, when used accordingly, they still put more than 65% of the material onto the work. So they're all compliant with VOC regulations, but certainly the RP of the two caps available for this is the one to use for clear coat. I just find it wets the panel up better, flows a bit more material, it wastes a little bit more material, but you often get that with a clear coat cap anyway. So the SATA RP is definitely the one to have. I think in the US this is actually sold, or the Americas in general, I think this is sold as I remember seeing something well, quite a while ago before I actually bought these, and it was from SATA America, and they were saying that these were like designed for solvent paint. Now I'm presuming that's because it's an official SATA channel, so to speak, i.e. the US importers for SATA. I presume that's correct. That's what they are marketing these things for. I've used the HVLP for water-based. I've never used a water-based clear. I know you can get them. I think they're still effectively in their infancy. I have no idea really what they actually work like, but I've used the HVLP 1500 for water-based paint, and it works very, very well. For some reason, it could just be the water-based paint that I use. Most guns I have to do the same thing with, and that's normally bring the gun back a little bit away from the work, and just increase the pressure slightly than I would with solvent. And I think that's because water-based stuff is normally, obviously you can thin it, but the viscosity still seems higher because it seems to have a higher solid content when you're looking at the various base coats. As I say, I have no idea about water-based clear coats because I've never used them. But certainly for water-based stuff, these things work fine. HVLP works fine. I haven't used the RP for water-based base coat, but the HVLP 1500 works fine for waterborne or for solvent. So yeah, maybe that's just a particular marketing angle they're using in the US. But as I say, I found that they work. These combination work perfectly well for solvent or for waterborne base coats. A quick word of apology actually, if you're looking at this and you're wondering why some of the toolboxes and things that are around me look a bit pink, it's because I had to alter the hue slightly to get this. For some reason this green comes out as a blue on my camera, and I have to alter the hue slightly on the camera so that it comes out the green that it is, which is a really nice green. And it just makes some of the reds look pink. But you can see here we're doing the final coat now with the Sata. It's probably a bit slower than the Meiji. One of the reasons for using the same panel over and over again is that you can compare different videos of different clear coat guns and look at the amount of time it takes to do the panel. The panel's the same. So it'll give you an idea of the speed of the gun. And obviously when we're talking about the speed of the gun, I don't want to go into this too much because we'll do that in a different video, but talking about the speed of the gun, it's the amount of material and the speed that you can work. Obviously no gun's powered, there's no motor in these things, so it doesn't roar away. You're the one controlling it. But if the material's coming out quite fast, then it allows you to go faster. That's all that's meant by a faster gun. So I think the Meiji is actually faster, and certainly if I was to choose between the two of these, fortunately I don't have to, but if I had to, I would choose the Meiji over the Sata without a doubt, because of the feel, the build quality, and it just feels like a really nice gun, whereas the Sata feels like a well-made gun, but it feels like a little bit of a cheap Sata, if that makes sense. Although that's not meant to be derogatory towards it, because it actually, it'll last you years. It's very well made, but there's no doubt it is a cheaper Sata. I think it's the body of the 1000. Is it the 1000 they called it, the primer gun? But anyway, you can see that the Meiji is more of an eye pattern. But yeah, it's a real class gun. I mean, both of these are excellent. And you can see here the finish is superb from both of them. I couldn't really split the finish. If I had to, I would probably give it to the Meiji gun, which is here on the left. But the Sata gives just as good a finish. The U-Pole, I should say, the clear coat we're using is a U-Pole 2080. Not a particularly good quality clear coat. Works okay for me for a lot of stuff that I do. But it doesn't flow particularly well, so it never flatters any gun. If a gun will work well with this, it will normally work well with any clear coat, whereas you get some guns, and it's normally the split tip guns that just don't put out as much material, and they struggle with this clear coat, so you need a better quality clear coat. But neither of these struggle with it, because they put out plenty of material, so you can just get it on and get it wetted up nicely. But as I say, I don't think you can argue that either of these are a bad finish. All the finishes you see at the end of these videos that I do, and all the videos I do, they're all off the gun, so you will see the odd nib and the odd run. It's very rare actually I'll get a run, but sometimes you do, obviously. But you will see it all, because nothing's done to it. These aren't sanded and polished and then showing you a polished finish. I can't see the point in that, because the point is to show you what the guns can do and what me and the gun is capable of doing. And if I showed you a polished panel, it could have been put on with a brush, really, couldn't it, and then sanded and polished. So yeah, that's the idea of it. So whatever you see is actually how it comes off the gun. I try and get work when I do stuff. Most of my stuff is bike stuff, but I try and get it as good as I can, so that it just means less work afterwards. Anyway guys, thanks as always for watching the videos. Cheers, bye bye.